Stan Wood, a happy guy who knows the weather before it happens.
That's what I like most about Stan's weather van. It's out here, where the weather is. And with Channel 8's own weather center to back him up, our people can alert Stan to change a forecast in a matter of minutes.
Hey, Mike, better get inside. Storm's coming.
Sometimes even faster.
So rest assured, Stan said it would.
And you wouldn't listen.
Stan said it would.
With this advanced technology, you could say that Stan Wood has Indiana weather all locked up.
It's hard to remember a time that Stan Wood wasn't a part of Wish TV. Stan's career parallels the history of the station and television in general in Indianapolis. That career is drawing to a close with Stan's retirement.
Hello, I'm Mike Ahern. Stan has been my partner at the anchor desk for nearly my entire career at Wish TV. He's been on the staff at Channel 8 for well over 3 decades. During the past 24 years, he's been known to answer to the nickname Stan the Weatherman. He's guided us through more than 90 changes of season, through countless storms, with an easygoing style and homespun wit. Now join me and a group of familiar faces from Wish TV's past and present as we say so long to Stan.
In a field that is not renowned for its stability, Stan has been one of the most enduring figures in the Indianapolis broadcast community.
Roads become icy roller coasters from New York to Georgia.
Stan has spent his entire adult life working on the airwaves. His first professional broadcast job came in 1947 in his hometown of Bloomington.
My freshman year at IU, a little radio station signed on the air in Bloomington, and I went down there to see if there was anything I could do, and they hired me as a part-time announcer. And so I did that for a few months until they had a full-time opening. The manager there said, "Do you think you could carry your full load at the university and work full-time?" I said, "Well, let's try it." And I did, and it worked.
Following a tour of duty in the Korean War, Stan returned to Bloomington in 1952, where he landed a job as chief announcer at a new television station, WTTV. He had the distinction of performing in that station's first paid television commercial.
One of the salesmen came to me and said, "We've got a manufacturer who makes a certain kind of fishing lure." He says, "You unscrew it and you put lightning bugs in there, and then you screw it back together, and when you cast that out there, why, they flash on and off and it attracts the fish." He said, "He's bought a 1-minute commercial on our station." This was a big deal, see, in the early days. He said, "So go home and get a fishing outfit or whatever, and come on down here." And he said, "And talk about this thing for about a minute or so."
In those early days, it was standard practice to make up as you went along, despite the obstacles that would present themselves.
Lights would blow up, the big studio lights would let go. You'd be standing out there and suddenly kahoom, like a mortar round going off and glass showering down. You just went right ahead with it.
That same spirit of innovation was taking place at Wish TV, where television news was in its infancy.
Now, The World at One, featuring Bill Donnella.
Good afternoon, everyone. The season's longest and most extensive cold wave has loosed another blast at the eastern half of the United States.
By the time Stan arrived at Wish as an announcer in 1957, the form of news was taking a now familiar shape. Specialties began to develop. In those days, the weather was done by Kay Field, who was referred to as the station's weather girl.
Humidity now, 39%. The winds are out of the south at 14 miles per hour. And just to prove a point, the point has arisen again. Some people are trying to decide, do I or do I not write backwards? We'll prove it again. Here we go. I'll come from behind, put the present temperature up here, 34 degrees, station pressure, 29.15, and at sea level, 30.01, and the pressure is falling. And you know, it's more difficult for me to write the right way on this glass map.
The first big test of television's ability to handle weather emergencies in Indiana came in 1965. On Palm Sunday, a series of killer tornadoes struck the state. Stan joined other members of the on-air staff in covering that disaster.
Reporter Stan Wood filed this next story from Greentown, Indiana, a small town just east of Kokomo.
The shocked look of disbelief on the faces of the people who have miraculously survived the total destruction of everything that they held dear in the way of material possessions. Their homes and property literally gone with the wind.
I was fortunate enough to have been on duty that evening and put on the tornado warning, cut into the Lassie program on CBS and put on the first tornado warnings for the Kokomo and Rocheville and Marion areas to the north. And the following day, the news department sent me up there to follow up on this, and numbers of people came up and grabbed my hand or slapped the cameraman on the back and said, "Thank God for Channel 8. We wouldn't have known there was anything coming up if our kids hadn't been watching Lassie when your bulletins came on." Well, that gave us a good feeling to know that we had been able to help those people.
Stan's primary job during that period was as a voice for WISH TV, giving station identifications and commercials. There were a number of opportunities to step in front of the camera as well.
There you, Mom. Give him a big wave. Oh, we've had a ride this morning.
I've always wanted to be, you know, one of those fancy guides with the little brass-bound cap and the megaphone. And so if you'll just relax, I'll be your own personal guide and conduct you on a musical tour to some of the best campus entertainment we could find in the state of Indiana.
This is the big news, Indiana's most complete newscast.
In 1967, Stan came into the job he now holds today. He was promoted to weather anchor by then General Manager Bob McConnell.
Hello, Bob. Stan?
A few weeks ago, Stan was reunited with McConnell, as well as former program manager Dave Smith, who hired Stan as an announcer at WISH TV, and Dave's brother Bob, a former production manager at WISH.
Today we've got all these electric gadgets and gizmos. Things have changed a little.
In those days, you had to write backwards, you couldn't do the job.
That's true.
The technology today is just, it's mind-boggling compared to that.
But I remember you were hired as a booth announcer, because at that time we had people just sat in the booth and read announcements.
Right,
you just sat for 30 minutes and spoke for 30 seconds.
Little telephone booth, you remember, down the
And you
hall
kept
there.
the log. So I remember we were looking at that time for a weather person. One of the qualifications, of course, of a weather person is that they have to talk about nothing and make it sound like something, and I knew you could do that.
These two fellows get the credit or the blame for whatever success or lack of it I've had in the weather field.
Oh, I think he's believable. I think he's Hoosier. This is a transient business, and people don't really stay that long at one station. And here we have Stan Wood, who's been at this station longer than the most of the staff members have been alive.
Well, you outlasted Gay than me.
That's right.
When I think of Stan, I remember it was an all-star game the NBA played in Indiana. I forget what year. It was cold. It was bitter cold. Of course, they played the game indoors, and it was 80 degrees, and it was lovely. So I'm not sure what effect he had on it. You know what I remember? I remember back in 1986, the 500-mile race. I kept hearing this term, window of opportunity. There was a window of opportunity that the rain would let down. Remember, that was the year the rain came on race day. It came on Monday. We didn't race until the following Saturday. It was almost June by the time we did it. Stan, it's all your fault. No. In all honesty, the best.
Because you've shared your wit with me and you've shared it with Mike over the years, it's given both of us, I know, a perspective on television and our jobs that we value. You're wonderful. You're a good guy, and you've got the right attitude. And what I hope for you is that you have a heck of a lot of fun during your retirement. I know you will. I know you've got those grandsons you're going to enjoy, and you're going to enjoy the time off, traveling, the Air Force, probably playing in a band. Buddy, you deserve it.
Warm front coming toward and moving through Indiana will be our trigger, and low pressure rippling along it will continue to move a lot of precipitation. I don't know what he's doing on the air there. Do you guys? Okay, now we're back.
Since I was just, I suppose, 3 or 4 years old, I was fascinated by weather, never afraid of thunderstorms, always enjoyed them, even as a little tadpole. And so this was a door of opportunity that I was tickled to death to have open to me. And so I hoped that it would turn into a career, and it did.
Stan's entry into a career as a television weathercaster couldn't have come at a better time. The job has taken an increased stature in the news business, especially in places like Indiana, where the weather can be particularly volatile. It's gotten more complex over the years as well.
And we'll gradually get a wind shift from the west to the southeast at about 10 to 15 miles per hour. The preparation, I think, is more difficult because we have so many more things we have to do. Drawing our own maps is it takes a long time. Oh boy, I'm gonna have to redo this one.
Well, let's go back and try it again.
I'm gonna do the whole thing over.
Yeah.
Preparing weather for the evening newscast doesn't permit a lot of time to stand and stare at the clouds. Instead, it means working with an array of computers and radar and weather fax machines in the station studios.
This is what I've been waiting for right here. 75 in L.A.
On an average day, the work is steady but manageable. When the weather gets rough, the pressure builds.
every weathercaster, every pro feels that, because we are the link to the public as far as disseminating important weather information, particularly tornado, severe thunderstorm warnings. We just have to get those on the air, and we have to stay abreast of the changing weather situations. Oh yes, we feel that responsibility.
Even during those frantic times, there is an exhilaration in the rush to present vital information to the public.
When the weather's worst, we have to be at our best. There's a lift there when we're staying on top of this severe weather and getting the warnings out and getting the radar on the screen so that people can follow these systems. When we know that we've done the job properly, yeah, that's a good feeling.
Coming up on News 8 at 5 o'clock, Liz Daly, Ken and I will have these stories for you. When news time rolls around, all the computer graphics are in place. There's an air of relaxed concentration on the set.
All right, now the mad dash. And once we're on the air, it's fun. It's fun because we know we've got a good product. And, it's fun to relate that to the viewers. Generally speaking, we have high pressure in the nation's belly button states, and it should stay there pretty much.
Like most other people in television weather, Stan has grown accustomed to ad-libbing his reports. The maps you see behind him are put there electronically. Actually, he's pointing to a blue board, using television monitors as points of reference. It's part of a routine that Stan repeats for 3 newscasts each day.
To put it candidly, if I hadn't enjoyed it, and if I didn't like the people I'd been working with, I wouldn't have been here this long, you know? And that's all she wrote.
Hello, Stan. This is Roland Smith. First of all, congratulations on your retirement. Rumor has it that Mother Nature is saddened by your departure from Wish TV, but she is pleased you no longer will inaccurately predict her wins. When I first heard that you were retiring, I was surprised. I was surprised that you were still there. I mean, you were old when I was there in 1968. Seriously, Stan, you are one of the gems of the broadcasting industry. I do remember your gentle counsel, your professionalism, and especially your warm smile. This business is filled with people who smile, but few of them connect the smile to the heart, and you do. I wish you wisdom in all of your decisions and continued laughter with your family and your friends.
I know you've been talking about this for 20 years now, but if you thought you might actually miss the night shift, the deadlines, Mike and Debbie asking about all that partly cloudy on the ground, or getting blamed for every flooded basement in Indianapolis after a big rain. Actually, Stan, it's your viewers who will miss your professional presentation and that special rapport you've developed with them over the years. But if you should be tempted to get back into forecasting, come on up to Michiana here and help us predict these lake effect snows. You'll get over it in no time.
A bunch of people in charge of this program have been going around in circles coming up with good ideas for you. Another one coming your way in just a moment.
It still doesn't sound very wintry, does it, Michael? Does it, Michael?
No, sir, it does.
Does it, Michael?
Here I am.
There are few words that adequately describe the blizzard of '78. Colossal might work. Horrendous wouldn't be far off the mark. The storm brought Indiana to a freezing halt for several days beginning January 25th. Stan had been through a massive blizzard while serving in the Korean War. He was the first weathercaster in the city to recognize the potential of this storm system to inflict the same sort of paralysis on the state.
I could tell by mid-afternoon it was going to be the weather story of the century as far as I was concerned for this market.
I'll never forget Stan Wood's role in the blizzard of '78. For most of us, it was a pretty typical winter day, and Stan came to us and said, actually, Stan came to the news director, which was, I think, a key element in that, and said, Lee, I don't know if you realize the severity of what may happen here, but I'm telling you, we're going to have a blizzard, and it's going to be unlike anything most of us, or maybe any of us, have seen, and we ought to be prepared.
A decision was made to stay on the air for the duration of the emergency. The new staff, small by today's standards, virtually lived in the station for 3 days while covering the blizzard.
I came in, and as well as Stan, on Wednesday, and I didn't get home, and I don't think Stan got home until sometime Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening. That's how long we were here.
About, as I recollect, 4 o'clock in the morning, maybe 4:30, I called Stan and discussed the weather forecast with him. By then, there were probably 30 or 40 inches of snow on the ground outside my house. And I said, Stan, would you be willing to help me by assisting in the public proclamation of a severe weather emergency? And he did, and so it was over Channel 8 that morning that we declared the weather emergency.
There are certain events that become watersheds in our lives. They are fixed points of reference as we look back at our collective triumphs and tragedies. The blizzard of '78 was one of those times.
I think of that as one of the most significant coverage events, and certainly to me the highlight of Stan Wood's role as a weather person, despite the hourly and daily updates he's given us over the years, all these years. That blizzard will always be one we'll remember.
We served the public well, and we were all quite proud of that. That has to be the high for my weather career.
Those of us who went through it, it was like being in the Army together, and it was one of the most fun and exciting times I've ever had in broadcasting. You once told me, when I left, never to come back and say hi, that you hated it when people paraded around the newsroom. Old people used to work there who came back to say hi, and I never have been back, have I, Stan? So now that you're retiring, go away, disappear, never come back and say hi, and have a great time.
Stan Wood, what a joker he was. Remember that dead mouse gag?
Who put a dead mouse by my glass of water? There's a dead mouse by my glass of water.
A dead mouse by your glass.
Look, there is.
Oh, I can drink the water.
Is it real?
Not anymore.
What a funny guy. Retiring, is he? What's he gonna do? Television is his life.
We'll get a real boot out of what's coming up in just a moment. We'll spur Mike on to further action after this word.
Well, you know, Stan, your retirement is really going to cause some adjustments for me. I don't know if you've given that any thought at all, but you know how it is when you go out and people are always quick to recognize you and they comment on the day's weather. I mean, when it's sunny, they're out enjoying themselves. Great day. I say, gee, thank you very much. I'm glad you're having a nice day. And then when they say, boy, this is really cruddy and uncomfortable, I say, well, this is not my weather, it's Stan's.
What? Stan Wood retiring? Oh, come on, that's got to be one of Stan's weather whoppers. You know what a weather whopper is, don't you? That's just sort of a tall tale about the weather in which the truth is kind of stretched out just a little bit. Another thing that he always instituted in his programs was the roving thermometer. We have a little graphic that shows just the roving thermometer on how active it is and was during Stan's tenure as chief weathercaster. Really, though, Stan, I would like to kind of take this opportunity to wish you and your family a long and healthful retirement.
Have as much happiness after retirement as you did when you got started in this crazy business. Nice working with you, Stan, and the best of health.
Well, partner, you and I have been on this set or others like it for almost 24 years now. And I know there's a lot of memories in the studio. But one thing I've never asked you is, when it's all over, and it soon will be, what will you miss the most, do you think?
The people I've worked with, certainly, down through the years. Made a number of friends in the business, and I will miss them. You especially, partner.
Well, thank you. Now, also, you know, you think of somebody retiring, you're just going to go back to Hendricks County, kick back, look at the scenery for a while, or is there more to life than that?
Well, I'll do a little bit of that, play with the grandchildren, but one of my main interests is aviation, and I hope to get quite active in that. Looking pretty good.
Inside a hangar at Mount Comfort Airport sits an object of affection for Stan Wood and fellow members of the Confederate Air Force.
Oh, boy, I just hardly bend that far anymore.
It's a 1941 T-50 twin-prop airplane. It's one of several World War II vintage aircraft to be adopted and restored by the Indiana wing of the CAF.
You know, it's too bad we couldn't go up today. It's a beautiful day. Look at that sky. Look at that sky.
Stan was asked to give a weather briefing for pilots involved in an air show sponsored by the Confederate Air Force about 4 years ago. When he arrived at the airport, it was love at first flight.
About a half hour after I showed up at that first air show, I was hooked. I met a number of people who have since become good friends of mine, and I was just overwhelmed with the opportunity to do something that I believed in and enjoyed.
Nationally, the CAF is a leading force in the preservation of planes from the Second World War. Once restored, they are flown in air shows around the country.
It's living history, and we think it's important that the generations that come after us know a little bit about what their dads and brothers and grandpas did.
Today, we've got 132 aircraft, and we rank 12th in the world in air power.
Stan's official job is as weather officer for the Indiana wing of the CAF. But like his friends J.R. and Carolyn Johnson, Stan puts in a fair amount of time on some of the less glamorous duties of plane restoration in order to earn his wings.
I feel I'll be doing a lot of this. I guess it's my main hobby. And now that I'm going to be a man of semi-leisure and retirement, I plan to give a good deal more of my time to these efforts.
When Stan bids farewell to his daily race with a clock, count on finding him spending much more time with his family and with his friends with the CAF as he enjoys the view on both sides of the clouds.
1, 2, 3. And that baby is put to bed.
Sure is.
Well, are you thinking about a little supper? I am.
Stan, we're grateful for you. For 33 years with Channel 8, 24 as the person who does the weather without ever making a mistake. So long. It's been good to know you. We wish you well in retirement. Thanks for the memories. And by the authority invested in me as mayor, do hereby proclaim January 11th, 1991 as Stan Wood Day in Indianapolis.
I've decided to proclaim January the 6th through the 11th Stan Wood Week here in the state of Indiana. Stan, congratulations. We're going to miss you.
A perfect day in your neighborhood. It's no surprise Stan said it would. A stormy night, and you knew that you should stay close inside. Stan said it would. So rest assured, Stan said it would. Stan said it would.
Now for the best performance by a forecaster standing in front of a weather map on a regularly scheduled program. The nominees are Frank Forrest of WFBM, Rob Stone of WLWI, Susan Scott of WTTV, and Stan Wood of WISH-TV. And the winner, if I could have the envelope, please. This way we make up a little time. The winner is Stan Wood.
Thank you, Mike. I'd like to thank all of those people responsible for this, and we'll settle it in the parking lot right after the broadcast.